You can't meet your personal growth goals by yourself. Partly because you're going to need help from other people, because we all do, but partly because some of our needs can only be met by building relationships with other people. And now you might be shaking your head and thinking, Amanda, what the heck are you talking about? Why are you contradicting yourself? Because last week you told me I needed to spend more time alone. And you're absolutely right. I did say that. Because there are some superpowers, as I call them, that you can only gain by spending time alone. However, you still need to focus on together time in order to realize your personal growth. And you have to find a balance between together time and alone time. And everyone's balance is going to be different. So I can't just say, you need to spend 80% by yourself, 20% with other people. It doesn't work that way. But I can give you a clue as to what your balance might be. So if you are an introvert, for example, you gain your energy, you replenish your energy by spending time alone. So it stands to reason that when you balance your scales, you're going to put more weight on alone time rather than together time. And that, of course, the opposite would be true if you are an extrovert. So at least that gives you a clue where to start. And today I'm going to present 5 reasons that you want to balance those scales. So the 5 reasons that your personal growth goals can't be all about you. And I said some of our needs can only be met by building relationships with other people. What am I even talking about when I say our needs? Well, if you know my work at all, you know I'm kind of a fangirl of Abraham Maslow, if there were such a thing. And he created or introduced the concept of the hierarchy of needs. And I'll have a graphic for that up here somewhere so you can see what it looks like if you're not familiar. But he believed these were the needs that we needed to meet in order to become self-actualized. So at the bottom, you have your physiological and safety needs. And I think a lot of those you can meet on your own. Of course, you're going to need other people for some of them. But then as you move up the pyramid, you get to your love and belonging needs. And your love and belonging needs can only be met by building relationships with other people. And so that's definitely going to require some together time. But on top of that, I believe that our inability to meet our love and belonging needs is what keeps us from realizing our full potential or becoming self-actualized, as Maslow would call it. Because we stay on that third level of the hierarchy, we might develop some of our self-esteem, self-respect needs, which are the next level up. You can develop some of those, but you cannot get to the pinnacle of self-actualization if you have not met your love and belonging needs, which is why it's so important for us to focus some of our personal growth efforts on together time. And that's why we're talking about it today. But before I list the 5 reasons that you need to invest some time in together time, I want to make one other note here. So we don't want to spend this together time with just anyone. We want to be spending this time with our green flag people. And if you're not sure what I mean when I say that, there will be a link in this post, in the narrative portion of this post, to another post that I wrote about red flag and green flag people. So go ahead and check that out. But while you're with those green flag people, you're going to be able to focus on 5 aspects of your personal growth that we're going to talk about next. So the 5 aspects are practice, and I'm kind of reading these here, so forgive me a minute. Practice setting manageable expectations. Learn from someone else's experiences. Practice empathy. Serve others. And fulfill your love and belonging needs, as we just talked about a little bit. So those are 5 aspects that you're going to focus on during your together time. And for fun, yes, fun, at least it's fun to me, is we're going to examine each aspect in relation to the cycle of deliberate thinking, in relation to a component of the cycle of deliberate thinking. And I wanted to do this because I think that this cycle is such a powerful tool in our arsenal of becoming self-actualized, realizing our full potential, whatever you want to call it, that it's important to see how it plays out in our everyday lives as much as possible. To give you guys as many examples as possible to see how the cycle can interact in your everyday life. Okay, so aspect number 1 is practice setting manageable expectations. And of course, the component of the cycle of deliberate thinking that this relates to is examine expectations, obviously. But the thing is, we make so many decisions based on other people's expectations without even realizing it. We base them on other people's timelines. We base our decisions on other people's priorities rather than our own. And now sometimes those expectations are actually communicated to us. Sometimes they're not, though. And I'd say a lot of the times they're not. A lot of the times we just make up these expectations in our own mind of what other people are expecting, and we really don't even know. So that's what I mean when I say we want to manage other people's expectations and figure out what they are really looking for from us. So the first thing that you need to do to set manageable expectations is figure out, is it someone else's expectation that has actually been communicated to you? Is it your own expectation? Or is it just this perceived expectation that you created in your own mind? What you're perceiving someone else is expecting from you. And of course, the time to practice doing this, recognizing what type of expectation you're dealing with, is during our together time. So let's look at a simple example. Alright, so your significant other, mine happens to be Dan, your significant other says to you, will you please do the dishes? And their expectation is that you're going to do the dishes. However, your expectation was that you were going to sit on the couch and chill out for a while because you have had a busy day and you're tired. So what you could do, and what we often end up doing when we're in that state, is we make up this expectation in our own head of what I think Dan is expecting in my case. So I could say to myself, Dan expects me to do the dishes right now? Doesn't he know that I've been super busy all day and that I'm tired? Why can't he do them? Why do I have to do everything around here? Okay, I think we've probably all been down that road in our heads at some point or another. And of course, if you voice these thoughts, you're sure to get into a fight. So we gotta try not to do that, although it is hard when you're tired and cranky and whatever. You know, I'm there too. I'm just as guilty of that as anyone else. But the point is, Dan never said he expected me to do the dishes right now. That's an expectation I created on my own. So I can manage our competing expectations by performing a negotiation of sorts with him. I could say, I'd be glad to do the dishes, but I'd like to sit and chill out on the couch for an hour first, so I'll do it after that. Okay, cool. Or I could say, I'm super tired. Would you mind doing them today, and I will take care of them tomorrow? Something like that. Now, you can't control how the other person is going to react, of course, but now you've set a manageable expectation. You have set the expectation that you're going to do the dishes. You're either going to do them in an hour or you're going to do them tomorrow. So now you both know what is expected of each other. And I realize this is a very simple example. It's an easy situation to navigate, but I believe that these principles can be applied to pretty much any situation that you run into. Alright, so that's managing expectations. Aspect number 2 is to learn from someone else's experiences. And the component of the cycle that this goes along with, of course, is stay curious. And this one doesn't require a lot of explanation, I don't think. I think a lot of us know the best way to learn anything is by doing it. And I'd say the second best way to learn anything is by listening to personal stories of someone who's already done whatever it is that you want to do. Because not only are you going to learn the right things that they did to be able to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve, you're going to find out what they did wrong. So you don't have to repeat the same mistakes that they did. And it goes without saying that to learn from someone else's experiences, you're going to have to spend some together time with them. And of course, face-to-face together time is great, but that's not always possible. So even if all you can do is watch videos or read about someone else's experiences, that can suffice as together time in a way, because you're still looking outside of yourself for your personal growth. So I would say that that would count. In my opinion. Alright, on to aspect number 3. Practice empathy. And practice empathy goes along with the component of respect other points of view on the cycle. So, we hear the term empathy a lot, but what does it actually mean? So I got a definition from F. Diane Beth, LCSW, that's her credentials, LCSW, and she wrote an article on Psychology Today. And in that article, she talks about empathy, and she defines it as empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. And she also goes on to say something that I think proves the point that empathy is very important to our personal growth. Because as she says, our neural networks are set up to interact with the neural networks of others in order to both perceive and understand their emotions and to differentiate them from our own. That's a huge part, differentiating other people's emotions from our own. Which makes it possible for humans to live with one another without constantly fighting or feeling taken over by someone else. So I think the last words of that statement are probably the most pertinent to what we're talking about today. The ability to live without constantly fighting or feeling taken over by someone else. That ability is what's gonna help you meet your love and belonging need that we've been talking about. So I want to just say here, I don't want you sitting there shaking your head and saying, Amanda, I'm just not an empathetic person. I wasn't born that way. I understand that would be a great part of my personal growth, but I just can't do it. Yeah, you can. So I'm not going to take that because I do agree and I do understand that it is definitely more natural to some people to be empathetic than it is to others, of course. However, studies have shown that empathy is a skill that can be taught with practice. Yes, it's going to take work, but it is possible if you really want to learn it so that you can strengthen your relationships and meet your love and belonging needs. And the more you practice empathy, the more likely you're going to be to see other people's or respect other people's point of view, and vice versa, of course. And I think the really cool thing about it is the very encouraging thing to me is that the more you practice empathy, the more you practice respecting other points of view, I think it would just grow exponentially. And your empathy is going to just grow exponentially. And that's going to set you up for success in meeting your personal growth goals. All right, so aspect number 4 is serve others. And I relate that to the component of the cycle personify core values. It might seem like a bit of a stretch because not all of their core values are going to involve serving other people. But I link them together because personifying your core values and serving others are linked in a way. When you personify your core values, you become more confident, you're living authentically, and this confidence creates a sense of well-being in yourself that makes you more apt to serve others. And serving others, of course, is an important aspect of our personal growth because it's a reminder to us that we're all suffering in some way, that we all need help once in a while, and that we all have problems. And these reminders will help us stay on course when the road of our personal development gets a little rocky, and it's going to get rocky because it does for everyone. So those reminders are going to help us. Those reminders that we get by serving others are going to help stay the course, help us stay the course. All right. Aspect number 5 is, of course, you're going to be able to fulfill your love and belonging needs by spending together time with people. And I matched this up, I related it to the component of the cycle called execute with intention. So to meet our love and belonging need, we have to intentionally decide that we want to build stronger relationships. And we want to build strong relationships with the people that are best for us. And that's an intentional decision. And I have in this post, again, there will be a link to another post where I talk about intentional relationships. So I'm not going to get into that a lot here, or being intentional in our relationships. I'm not going to get into that, so you can check that post out. But what I want to talk about is that after we make that decision to be intentional in our relationships, we have to take action. We have to execute with intention, in other words. And our goal here is to build family ties, it's to build friendships, it's to build intimacy with people or a level of vulnerability. Not just necessarily romantic intimacy, although that's a part of it. We also want to be able to build trust with people. We want to be able to receive and give affection. And that is actually something that's very difficult for a lot of people, is receiving and giving affection. And we also want to build some kind of level of acceptance of ourselves and feeling accepted and a feeling of belonging in part of a group. So those are the things that we're trying to build during our together time and trying to meet our love and belonging need. So, with all that being said, are you ready to spend some time together? Not with me necessarily, but with someone important to you, one of your green flag people. Schedule some time, do it now, even if, get it on the calendar, even if it's only a 5-minute phone call a couple times a week, whatever it is, that's a good place to start. It will get the ball rolling and it will create some momentum so that maybe you can build more time into your schedule as time goes on. And during that time, as we talked about, you're going to want to spend time practicing managing expectations or setting manageable expectations. Practice learning from someone else. Practice your empathy skills. Practice looking for opportunities to serve. And during that time, you're going to want to focus on building trust and building the ability to be vulnerable with other people. So, of course, as usual, I put a spreadsheet together for you guys to help summarize this post and help you go from inspiration to action. So, with that being said, until next time, stay curious.